We should be.
Twitch.
Hi, everybody. It is Amala over here with PragerU. We are also joined by Will and Taylor. And today's live, we are starting off with a good old privilege test because it's always a good time for all the folks listening at home to check your privilege. You should be checking your privilege really daily. And if you're not, then what are you doing with your lives? You must not have a very fulfilling day. So we're going to start off with, a fist, as all the leftists do. And each of us is going to go around and name a different privilege. If you have said privilege, you can put the finger up. If we are talking about an oppressive thing, we will ask you to put the finger down. Now, you guys can play at home. First 1 to 5 is the arbiter of white privilege. So I'm going to start off with mine. Put one finger up if you grew up in a 2-parent household. Ooh, Taylor's the only one. Will is up. Okay.
Well, I guess.
Yes.
My dad wasn't there,
slowly.
but it was a stepfather for part of it.
Okay.
I guess.
So, Will, it's your turn.
Put a finger up if you benefit from affirmative action.
Ooh, he just targeted me. Okay. Taylor, your turn.
Put a finger up if you're black.
That's not a privilege.
So who says?
It would be put a finger down if you're black.
No, put a finger up if you're black.
You're putting half a finger up anyway, so.
Well, that's not how this works. Anyways, put a finger up if you have the privilege of being a white male.
I'm not putting a finger
I'm
up.
not
'cause
putting
it's
a
not
finger up. I don't have
anymore.
that privilege.
We're like so sidetracking what
You
I'm
guys,
trying to do
yeah,
here.
you guys are actually not playing this game correctly.
I wanted
okay?
to do put a finger up if you've ever had a mani-pedi.
Yeah, I've had one.
I knew it.
Feels
See, I
great.
just wanted to blast Will. for
Will
that.
really has 3 fingers up, but it's okay. And Taylor has 2, but I guess I'm the only one who's truly playing this game.
I'm
Anyways,
playing the game just fine.
Will, name a privilege.
Put a finger up if you're a woman.
We are oppressed.
We are very oppressed.
This is. Look at this.
I just feel like this is
man.
is cheating. This is really, really cheating right now. Okay. Put a finger up if you have ever, let's see, if you've gone to college and graduated. There you go.
Oh yeah, you guys are dumb. I forgot.
Yeah, we're pretty dumb.
Well, it's your turn.
Taylor didn't go.
Oh, yeah. Put a finger up if people don't ask to touch your hair.
I also can't put a finger up.
I knew it.
Put a finger up if you're gay.
I saw Will over there like,
The secret's out, huh?
Let's see. Put a finger up if you have more than one sibling.
Is that a privilege?
how is that privilege?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just,
It
you
means your
guys went off the rails.
parents love you
Now
less.
I'm off the
Oh,
rails.
This is a train wreck.
Yeah. Put a finger up if you like Legos.
I like Legos.
Am I the first 1 to 5?
Yes.
I think I tied you.
Okay, well then Taylor and I have white privilege and Will's oppressed.
I am the most oppressed out of our small coalition.
Yeah, just for the record, this was supposed to be an actual privilege test and then Taylor and Will just took it over and ruined it.
I am quite thrilled that I am oppressed. I would like to start receiving benefits immediately.
We'll work on that.
'Kay.
Maybe that'll be the next stream. Well, you might be asking why are we taking a privilege test, and it's because, a school teacher has forced his children to go out into a field and take a privilege test, but instead of, putting their fingers up, they do something called a privilege walk, where you have to walk forward for each point of privilege that you have. James Lindsay brought light to this, and we're going to show you this video here, so let's check it out.
Teacher had his class line up and participate in a privilege walk. He asked them a series of questions about their privilege status and has them step forward or back depending on the answer.
Step backwards. If you or your family ever inherited money or property, take a step forward. If your family
Of course.
inherited money or property, take a step forward. If you come from a supportive family environment, take a step forward. If you were ever uncomfortable about a joke or statement you overheard related to your race, ethnicity, gender, appearance, or sexual orientation, but felt unsafe to confront the situation, take a step backwards.
That's like the most specific question ever.
Oh, it's so many qualifiers.
I know.
It's
He's like, if anyone has ever called you gay in a Wendy's parking lot and
2:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday.
that you take a step forward.
People are like trying to do the math in their head. Like, I don't know.
Gosh. That is so...
Those are like the reason why I know we can get into this stuff about why this is wrong, but I just want to say first of all why this is wrong. These are children out of school. I assume children, they look about maybe 15 years old, 13, 15 years old.
Right.
And you as an educator are asking them questions that I don't think you have the right to ask them. I don't think you should be able to ask children these types of questions, at least not ask them these types of questions when it's in front of a group and make it a required learning segment for your vanity.
Right.
It's part of this culture of like shaming whiteness. And they call all these like privileges whiteness. And if you happen to fall into that category, which are all things that you can't control, by the way, like what type of family you're raised in and that kind of thing, then you're worthy of public scorn. And everyone needs to acknowledge that you're this bad privileged person and you need to grovel and apologize for it just for being raised the way you happen to be raised.
The way you should be treating school is that you have all these different people, all from different backgrounds, who are all sharing the same classroom. And when you enter the classroom, it becomes an equal playing field, regardless of what your background is. And to bring the privileges or the oppression that students face into the classroom is to completely negate everything that you're supposed to be doing as a teacher. No child should feel any differently than any of its peers or any of its other classmates in a classroom.
This is why I say abolish the public schools.
I know. Very radical.
Matt Walsh has been talking about this. I don't know if you guys follow Matt Walsh, but he's been talking about how you have, let's say this is a public school where this is happening. I think it said public school, but I didn't see exactly. There's a public school where this is happening, okay? This is a government employee who we are paying their salary through our tax dollars and your children, okay? There is this illusion out there that for some reason, parents should not be able to see what is happening at schools. Like you're not supposed to know what your children are learning because it'll stifle what they're learning or something, which is one of the stupidest things that has ever been said and one of the greatest lies about education that parents and adults have been told about children. There should be cameras in every single classroom and soccer field or whatever this was to showcase what teachers are doing with the children. This is a government employee. Okay? You don't leave your kids at the DMV without cameras there. Well, I hope you don't leave your kids at the DMV. But, you know, you don't leave your kids alone with people who have an agenda to teach your kids certain values and not say that I should be allowed to see what is happening.
Yeah, even if they didn't have an agenda, wouldn't you want to know that a teacher is just simply treating your kids right and that your kid is doing well in school? And a part of that is being able to see and know exactly what they're being taught throughout the day.
Didn't we cover a story like last year during the lockdowns when everyone was doing Zoom classes and there were teachers, like a teachers union, and teachers were upset that parents were able to watch them conduct their classes and they wanted privacy. And like, why would you even want that as a teacher? Why would you feel the need to shield parents from what you're showing their kids unless you had an agenda that you knew parents would not be happy to see?
Yeah, and you're embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when you were in school and the teacher would teach you, but then all of a sudden, like the principal or the assistant principal would walk in the classroom to supervise, and all of a sudden you had this really great teacher who was so happy and so nice to you?
Absolutely.
Taylor had to take the glue out of his nose.
Put my gum under the desk real quick.
Yeah, it just goes to teachers are completely different people when they know that nobody else is watching and that they're left alone with your children. And that is 100% a fact. And the fact that they are upset that we want to challenge that and have cameras in their room and be able to supervise what they're doing just goes to show the quality of education that your kid is receiving.
Yeah, or just abolish it.
Or just
I will die on this hill. I for sure will.
Okay.
Abolish the public schools.
That is such a radical.
It's not radical. Why is it radical?
It is a little.
How is that radical?
Who else calls to abolish everything and burn things down?
No, that's not
Antifa.
No, that.
Will, are you a closet Antifa member?
No, because I have the left can only destroy. I have alternative solutions. You have charter schools, you have public school or private schools, you have homeschooling, you have things that are alternatives. You are not just destroying the public school just to destroy it because you don't like it. But it is a system inherently that has created a factory-driven system to make children obedient to authority. That is what school does. It makes children obedient to authority.
I agree, but how many parents...
So abolish it. If you agree, it's to say it.
No. I agree with reform. is what I agree.
Yeah.
Why? What is
Because-
the point of reforming if not just abolishing? If there are better solutions, then why not just have those better
Because there
solutions?
are so many parents that cannot afford private schooling and cannot afford or have the capabilities to homeschool their children. So it's like public school has to be an option for people. It just needs to be a reformed option,
Right.
of
It
which
just
is
needs to
driven
not
by school
be-
choice.
Yeah, and it just not
Public
needs to
school
not be
is not an
indoctrination.
option.
It needs to be education. Like you said, when a kid comes in the classroom, it needs to be a safe environment that is a level playing field for everyone. It needs to be a microcosm of the society that we want to create. That isn't this place where you're controlled in how you think and you're told what to think. It's a place where you're nurtured and developed and taught how to think. And right now, what we're seeing is a lot of teachers that are choosing to, because they're activists before they are educators. And what we need is teachers who are educators before they're activists. But in the mechanism in order to get there is accountability and parents, inserting themselves into their child's education and being, I was going to say being activists for their child's education, but taking responsibility and involving themselves in their child's education and holding their teachers accountable and holding their school boards accountable for what's being taught, so that our public schools reflect the values of the public or of parents, rather than our public schools are just this closet thing that teachers unions are controlling to put whatever woke indoctrination that they want onto kids.
But this goes beyond just leftism being taught in schools. If I would look at the schools 20 years ago, before most of this wokeism was doing, I would still say abolish the public schools, because schools do not prepare people for the real world. It doesn't prepare them in a way where they are unique individuals learning how to be creative and innovative in a world that pushes them to be subservient and obedient. That is what public schools do. They make you into a slave of what society is supposed to be.
So
Instead of being creative, you are being told to be obedient to authority.
I agree to some extent, but I think the solution to that is school choice, is allowing parents to have vouchers of tuition for their students' education and going to a school that provides that, whether or not that's a trade school that is less arithmetic and literature, or something that caters to your kids. That way you are in control of what happens. You are patronizing the schools, and the schools have to meld to what your belief is. The schools have to meld to what your needs are and what your students' needs are.
Right, but I'm saying there are better alternatives. If you're using school choice to go to a better public school that is already flawed in nature, there should be a better alternative for education than the factory model of schools that we have across the world. There should be a better way to cultivate children to be creative and innovative instead of just zombies that come out all knowing the exact same thing, being nice little civil people. Like, you want people to grow up in the world and be creative and want to experience and do new things.
I guess that what I'm saying is school choice would create the environment of which that schools like that exist. So because your parents are in control of that, they can meld it to what they want, to what their leanings are, what their values are in terms of their kids, and schools will build themselves up to accommodate that because they have customers, which would be the parents and the students.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
We have to have a long philosophical discussion about school choice.
This wasn't even the purpose of this segment, was to get into another debate. We did this yesterday, Will. No, but I think Will can just open up the world's first school that nurtures children's individuality instead of and nurtures their creativity instead of makes them little minions.
In the same way that businesses meld themselves to what their customer base is looking for, schools would do the same if parents were in control of the tuition and funding that schools were getting. If a school was not accommodating your kid, whether that is creatively, whether that's educationally, or whether that's politically, you would then be able to take your money from that school and go to a school that does cater to that. So eventually you would have a huge lot of diversified schools that are all specified in certain criteria when it comes to education. And that's how, as a parent, you would be able to choose the school.
But you can't do that when you have standardized tests and standardized grading systems. When you have standardized tests that go across a whole state that judge every single student on the exact same things,
right,
then you can't.
Well,
then
I guess
there is no choosing.
That's a whole separate discussion when it
Well,
comes
that's what
to
I'm saying,
school
but
choice.
this is how the schools are. This is how the schools were designed and built.
But I feel like that changed recently with Common Core education.
Almost looking at me. I'm going to defer to more educational experts on this type of stuff.
What I'm going to say is
we're doing very deep down the rabbit hole.
We're going to vow to have an in-depth discussion about not only school choice, but standardized testing and Common Core within our school systems and how our schools should be run. Because again, we do get on this program a lot and we talk about the different issues and we do complain because of course things are getting worse culturally, but let's talk about solutions. So maybe we'll get on here and
abolish is the solution.
Oh my
I will die on this hill. I promise. All right, go to the next story.
Will and I will
Will's in
debate this later.
Anarcho-educationalist.
I am. For the public government-ran schools, the factory schools, yes. 100%.
So you guys watched that privilege test that was happening in that field, and a lot of people, especially people on the left, will sit you down and tell you that that was not critical race theory, but it absolutely was critical race theory. The concepts of privilege and equity and affinity groups are all founded in the doctrine that is critical race theory, yet they will stand here and tell you that it is not being taught in our schools. We just showed you a prime example of that, and now I want to divert your attention over to President Randy, I don't even know how to say, Weingarten, the AFT president here in the United States, talking about the fact that critical race theory is not taught in our schools. Here we go.
Critical race theory is not taught in elementary schools or middle schools or high schools. It's a method of examination taught in law school and in college that helps analyze whether systemic racism exists, and in particular, whether it has an effect on law and public policy. But culture warriors are labeling any discussion of race,
That's what I am, baby.
racism, or discrimination as CRT to try to make it toxic. They are bullying teachers and trying to stop us from teaching students accurate history. Critical race.
It's, again, the same argument that you hear time and time again from the people who are pro-CRT. Oh, conservatives don't want to teach real history. All that we're doing is sitting down and having a discussion as to whether or not systemic racism exists. No, you're not. And conservatives are not telling you not to teach true American history. That's all we want is for you to teach true American history. Yet you want to sit down and you're not questioning whether or not systemic racism exists in America. You are saying that systemic racism exists in America, and you are saying that our country is founded in it.
I think that's why conservatives lose sometimes, because conservatives, I think on the whole, are more honest than the left. And so when it comes to the left, they do things under the radar. They want to say, no, it's not really critical race theory. It's not really global warming. It's these other things. And we're just going to slide it under the radar and make it sound so good and nice, but not actually give it this name that sounds horrible, but they still do it. So they say that they're not instituting this CRT in schools. Okay, maybe you're not instituting exactly what CRT is, but you are 99% instituting what CRT is, just calling it by a different name. So the left is very mischievous when it comes to implementation of their ideas, whereas conservatives, I think, are more honest. And so the left gets away with things because they do it kind of under the guise of this is something that is going to be good for you. In reality, it is not. And they lie to us.
And go and look up a basic definition for CRT. Not only is it founded in the theory that America is founded in systemic racism and white supremacy, and that all of our institutions to this day uphold that systemic racism, it is also founded in this doctrine of intersectionality, where not only are we now talking about race, we are talking about gender, we are talking about sexual orientation, we are talking about physical and mental disabilities, and it is all intertwined. So when you hear any sort of leftist ideology, whether that's from the corporations on your TV, whether that's in your schools, whether that's on social media, it is all founded in the doctrine that is CRT. It is an all-encompassing phrase, and they will tell you time and time again that no, it is not, that this is specifically what CRT is, and you're just using this to paint this whole theory as something that's evil, when it is evil. That's just it.
If their ideas were so good, then why do they have to lie about it? I don't get that. Why do they feel like the need to hide up their truths and the things they're saying? If it's so righteous to fight against systemic racism and to fight against institutional racism and horrible things happening to the LGBT community and all these things, and it's so right and great to be like this and do this, then why do they have to hide it and subjugate it into a different realm of teaching? It doesn't make any sense. If you really thought that you were doing good for the world and fighting against racism, wouldn't you want to be proud of that fact and say, yes, we are proudly fighting against racism? But they're not. It's I don't know. It's devilry. This new devilry.
It really is. It really is sinister, and again, we want to arm you guys with the facts to fight back against this. So if anybody tells you that CRT is not being taught in our schools, I want you to look at this tweet here. This is from Chris Rufo, who is doing a lot of work on the front lines when it comes to critical race theory. The NEA, which is a second largest teachers union here in the United States, has implemented policy that is going to promote CRT within our schools, and this encompasses 14,000 different local school districts nationwide. And it's written right here. We plan to learn more and fight back against against the anti-CRT rhetoric. So it is written within these teachers' unions, which if you said abolish teachers' unions, well, I'd be backing you.
Both.
I would be backing you. But it's right there in the print. They're not trying to hide it whatsoever, but they'll hide it when you confront them face to face. It's a very interesting thing.
It is interesting.
I don't like it.
I don't
as
like
Will
it.
would say. And what
Chris
happens?
Rufo's a good guy.
Chris
He's
Rufo
doing
is
a
a good
lot
guy.
of good work.
And he continues, and he must sound like he's beating a dead horse every single day, but he continues to fight back against all the people who are trying to defend critical race theory in our nation, and it is growing despite what anybody on the left tells you.
Yeah, he's the best. Real quick, I mean, I was listening to Dan Crenshaw and Jordan Peterson. There's a new episode this morning, and Dan was talking about how like the default position of conservatives is basically defensive because the left is always trying to change the rules of the game and trying to change the definitions of what's normal and what's acceptable in society. And conservatives are always like, well, wait, why are you trying to change what, the fact that a two-parent household is a good thing? Like we are not prepared to give a defense of that. We don't have this articulate thing. And with CRT, it's the exact same thing. They're all of a sudden rewriting history and recasting America's history as racist. And it's taken time for conservatives to even understand that was happening, and that's been happening for a long time. We've had the 1619 Project. We've had a lot of these ideas in the works, but then we were finally able to put a label and a name on it and say, this all traces back to this intellectual movement called critical race theory, and that kind of weaves all these ideas together, and that's what all this is coming from. And it's so obvious when now you know it when you see it. But now that the conservatives are finally able to name the enemy, and that's how you start to fight back and have an effective way of fighting back. They're saying, well, you're just using this as a blanket label for everything. You're calling everything critical race theory now, and you don't even know what that means. They did the same thing with socialism, and it's like to what you guys are saying, they don't have the winning argument is not on their side. So they play these word games instead to redefine things and recharacterize and play, make it about how you're arguing rather than the substance of the ideas themselves, because they're on the losing side of those.
It sounds like Dan Crenshaw's been reading my book. I talk about that exact same thing in my book.
Did you send him an advance copy?
I did not. No, I should have.
What is the name of your book, Will, and where can people access this?
It's
really
called
interesting.
Amala Epinobi Tell-All. It's about 330 pages long, 10-point print. A lot of dirt on her that you'd like to know about.
Oh, I'm sure.
AE. No, it's called How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies. You guys can find it on Amazon, any major bookseller for pre-order right now.
People are asking if it's 1776 price.
What does that mean?
It would mean that you'd be a real patriot, but
that I'm selling it for $17.76.
They wish you were.
I don't control the price of the book. Amazon controls.
Although his new Sounds of Patriotism album, you can have for 3 easy payments of $16.19.
That's a steal.
Which, if you haven't seen
government
that skit,
will from you.
we just did a funny 4th of July skit where Will's selling this progressive album with all these woke songs like Critical Race Theory, 'Tis of Thee, instead of My Country, 'Tis of Thee, and stuff like that. So go check that out. I'll put the link in the comments.
Yeah, so I guess the underlying theme here is that the left tries to ruin everything, and in their effort to create progress, they don't create any whatsoever. Look at the movement around affirmative action and hiring more black people and filling diversity quotas and this and that. What does that do for your society? It really does nothing but to pit people of different races against each other, and we're seeing that now with a recent story out of ESPN, and that is with Miss Nichols here, who has come under fire after talking about a fellow ESPN anchor that was hired. She made a comment saying that her hiring may have had to do with her race, which is a perfectly sound comment to make, considering that ESPN has been very, very upfront with the fact that they are hiring based on diversity. So after making this comment, she was subsequently taken away from her spot on the sidelines of the NBA Finals and is now going through further cancellation and is possibly going to be taken off of more jobs in relation to her ESPN anchor job. So let's listen to the apology that she issued to the woke mob.
In journalism school is don't be the story. And I don't plan to break that rule today or distract from a fantastic finals. But I also don't want to let this moment pass without saying how much I respect, how much I value our colleagues here at ESPN, how deeply, deeply sorry I am for disappointing those I hurt, particularly Maria Taylor, and how grateful I am to be part of this outstanding team.
Shut up.
Ugh. Ugh. The first rule is just don't bow. Don't bow down.
I know.
And that's exactly what she's done. And it's an unfortunate thing. You know, she could have used this platform and stood up and said, well, guess what? I blame ESPN for hiring people based on diversity. It is perfectly normal for me, a white woman, to see a black woman being hired and go, maybe that's because she's black. Because you are the ones who instituted the policy that said that you would put race and gender over any other merit. So that's a perfectly sound deduction to make.
At this point, she should double down, and she should ask for the other girls' grades in journalism school and background economic status, and figure out just how privileged she is not.
Right. And all of that merit may end up being perfectly sound, but when you start your relationship off with somebody on the basis of affirmative action, you have started off on the wrong foot. Nobody who is black will ever be fully aware of the accomplishments that they've made if you have taken their race into account, and nobody who's white is ever going to feel perfectly sound in their job or in their career if you are making decisions based on somebody else's race.
This girl must have had a reason to say this, don't you think? Like, if she says that she got this position because she's black, she must have had some sort of reason to say, okay, maybe this girl isn't that good at journalizing, or is that intelligent, or whatever it might be. She must have had some sort of instance that occurred to say, this is why I said this.
From what I'm hearing, Maria Taylor has worked with them quite a bit throughout their career, and they actually have a pretty good work relationship. What happened was Maria Taylor was taking on a position that was supposed to go to Rachel Nichols.
It's like I think they were giving Maria more spots than Rachel, and ones that Rachel would normally get, because they wanted to put
Boost
forth
their
the veneer of diversity.
Right. So she got caught making these comments. ESPN, of course, took her off of the NBA Finals sidelines. But now listen to the rest of this little speech that she has and what her black fellow anchorman says to her.
Well, Rachel, I want to say thank you. Thank you for accepting responsibility for your actions. You know, as someone that has known you for a long time, you know, being around you, you have treated me with the utmost respect, and you always made me feel comfortable in your presence. And I know your heart, you know, great person, great individual. I also know Maria Taylor, great person as well, very, very talented, hardworking, and I feel like she also deserves every opportunity that is presented her way. My only hope is that we have a commitment overall to support each other through this process and continue to support each other through our journey.
No, I agree with Perk. Let me first say this. I fully support Maria Taylor. I've worked with her since I joined ESPN at Get Up and Countdown, and
no one supports Maria Taylor as much as me. All right? If anyone supports strong black women coming to work, it's me. All right?
I double support her.
Yeah.
I do double, triple support her.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're less supportive than me.
I've always supported her. Even when she was still in high school, I supported her. I just knew she was going to make it.
They're towing this line of, oh, I really want to defend Rachel right now, but I also don't want to look like a racist bigot, even though I'm a black man. It just blows my mind. And he says something really interesting. He says, I feel as though Maria Taylor deserves every opportunity that comes her way. Why would you ever want to put that under question? And with affirmative action, with this stuff like critical race theory and gender theory, that's exactly what you do. You put things that should be founded in nothing but merit, pure merit, you put them under question, because who knows whether or not she got that job because of a race? Who knows whether or not she got that job because of a woman? It shouldn't be because she's a woman. It shouldn't be happening like that.
Well, it's something that, because of affirmative action and because of those standards, that maybe Rachel Nichols was the one who came out and said it.
Right.
But it's something that many other people were thinking in their heads without saying it.
Exactly.
So that makes it really sad that that's the way that people have been conditioned to think about these kind of things. But that's what happens when you have a world like that.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. So from this point on, where do you go? Thanks to Rachel Nichols for making this comment, which I don't even think she made the comment publicly or anything. I think she just got caught. But it's a good thing to get caught for saying, because somebody should be saying it. And what she failed to do was actually stand up for her true beliefs and what she truly felt. Because I can guarantee she feels the same way as she did when she made those comments. But the woke mob came after her so hard that she felt the need to apologize.
You know what the funniest thing about all this to me at the end of the day is, like, no one is racist. No one is actually racist in this whole situation, but we're talking about on this podcast. It's all over Twitter. It's all over the news because of this confusion around these diversity ideas and this need to virtue signal. And like, didn't Rachel herself say, like, she was like, someone in the comments said she herself was a diversity hire as a woman.
Right.
and there's truth to that as well. But then all of a sudden it's the same idea you referenced of intersectionality. Well, we need a black woman now that she has to be, paraded. And isn't it like ESPN is just parading her out in front of the world so that they can get virtue signaling points? It's almost like they're using her blackness and her womanness to profit themselves and get, a pat on the back from woke people. So it's all just this fake stuff that no one is really being oppressed. No one's actually racist in this whole situation, and no one's actually offended in this whole situation. I'm so sick of our society playing these games, but it dominates the headlines, it dominates media, it dominates Hollywood. It's everywhere you look, and it's just so tiresome. I'm like, let's just come back to reality and be normal human beings again. But apparently that's too much to ask for these days.
They know they're getting ratings from all this.
Yeah,
exactly.
They know that it's driving up. I mean, that video that we just watched on Twitter had 1.2 million views.
Right.
People care about this more than they do the sports.
But they say that we're the ones exploiting people of color, when really who's doing it is the left. And that's an excellent point by Taylor, that you are truly being exploited by the left, because situations happen like this and they just run with it. They run with your name, they run with your blackness, and they make it a story, and that's all that they do.
Something that you didn't get to choose.
Right.
You were born black, you were born whatever. You didn't get to choose that, and then people exploit it for their own selfish gain.
Yeah.
And I just saw someone on Facebook, Tony says, meanwhile, Stephen A. Smith can talk about white privilege and not a thing is said or done. It's like they have the other host on the show, First Take, Stephen A. and Max Kellerman, and I stopped watching it because literally all they talk about is race. It's like they talk about these race issues like every single day, and it's like, you're a sports show. Like, I don't need to hear this. And it's Max Kellerman like lecturing fellow white people about how they're not woken up, and then it's Stephen A. Smith saying, complaining about everyone's white privilege, and Max Kellerman's like the willing white person next to him being like, yeah, you're right about all that, and like we should be self-flagellating and groveling in ourselves. And it's just like, what does this have to, is again, like, why can't we just have sports? Like, why can't we just enjoy this and not have people doing all this kneeling and making it, politicizing everything? It's just so tiresome.
I think those people who are doing that show, they feel like they're not doing enough in the real world, so they have to go and make some sort of other meaning with their lives. When they see things happening in the news and things like that, they feel like, well, we're just a sports show. That's not good enough. We have to go and do something else. We have to fight for racism. Right. They have to show that they're so anti-racist. And so they have to show that they care about something when actually, it's all a facade.
Virtue, 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 virtue. Good job. Good job, ESPN. Now, quick shout out to a couple of our followers here. William Barkenbush for the super chat. Thank you so much for your generous donation. And I don't know how to pronounce that name.
Oh, it's easy.
It's easy?
It's Truana Nasha Bad Pressure Bad Calf Care.
For your $10 donation and your note that says an I need an I don't like it t-shirt.
I would love an I don't like it t-shirt. If someone is a t-shirt maker out there and can make one, you can send it to our P.O. Box, pragu.com/contact to find our P.O. Box. Send me one there. I'm a extra medium.
Wow. An extra medium?
Uh-huh.
Is that a thing?
I'm large.
I'm a medium, but
It's
a little bit
medium.
above medium, so it's an extra medium.
Okay.
So.
I'm an extra small.
Okay.
Very tiny, guys, if you guys are listening. Now, we spoke a lot about privilege on this stream today, but guess what? If this study goes the way it's going to go, this next one I'm going to show you, we will have no privileges whatsoever. Let me read you this headline. To stop climate change, Americans must cut energy use by 90%, live in 640 square feet, and fly only once every 3 years, says a study. What is your initial reaction to this, guys?
Flying once every 3 days.
You really are.
3 years.
You really are flying around quite a bit. Taylor?
In LA, the square footage part isn't that far off. So
wait, what did the square footage say?
640 square
That's how much we can live on?
Every single American.
What if they're stacked on top of each other? Does
Brilliant.
that change?
No, I don't know. I don't know that it changes.
I don't think so.
Are you going to have like a multi-floor?
Well, I'm saying like really high sky rises or something. If they're
Will Witt solves climate change while stacking houses. You did it.
Yeah, thank God. Finally, someone came up with the right solution.
So there are more provisions that they put in here. Travel should, in any case, be limited to between 3,000 to 10,000 miles per person annually.
Okay.
That's what's going to help us save us from this catastrophic nature of climate change here in this country.
What is so catastrophic about all of this?
It's been catastrophic for the past 80?
Well, it was 3 years ago that AOC said we have 12 years left.
Right.
And in those 3 years, I haven't seen too many dramatic changes. Well, I'm going to be honest.
What are you going to do in your last 9 years, Will?
Same as I did in my first 9 years.
Eat, sleep, poop, cry.
Yeah. Same as I do now.
What about you, Taylor? What are you going to do in your last 9 years on this earth?
I'm going to get married and
he's taking it more seriously. That was a way more serious answer than
much more.
I'm not going to lie. I was like reading at some comments when you guys were setting that up. So
that's okay.
I heard the question. I just gave an honest answer. So
what type of energy is this talking about? Does it say within?
Okay. It's talking about carbon emissions and just like,
right.
Yeah.
Even though carbon emissions have already peaked in the United States and peaked like in the 1970s all across Europe. Apparently
they peaked now, like Will did in high school.
Yeah. Apparently now though they're all supposed to continue. How is it, the carbon levels have peaked?
What they're asking for you to do here, the average person would be limited to using the energy equivalent to 16 to 40 gallons of gasoline per year. That's as much as you get.
16?
To 40.
When I have a big barbecue, we're using that much at one time. Not really, but that's not very much. Wait, 16 gallons of gas? I mean, that's like 2 weeks in your car, right?
Not even.
It's not.
Even, depending on
not with how much we move around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's wild. We're so you can only have your car for 2 weeks, and then it's done.
My question is,
according to this,
they're doing all this. They're stripping people. The plan is, of course, to strip people from their privileges so that we can continue to live on this earth longer. What's the point of living on this earth longer if you have absolutely no way to live your life or to do anything?
If I can't have air conditioning, just shoot me now.
Yeah, seriously. Wait, who is saying this? Who is saying this?
Let me pull up where the study came out of.
I would be interested to know if this is just some.
It's a team of European researchers led by the University of Leeds sustainability researcher Jeffem Vogel.
University of Leeds.
The University of Leeds is putting out this study for you.
Have to stop using all your electronics and gas.
Yes. You can't drive around anymore.
Go ride your bike everywhere.
Take a little ride on the trolley, eh?
No more tea and crumpets for you. Takes too much gasoline.
Raw dough, innit? That's wild. I can't believe that. I can't believe that. This is why you should never take university seriously. Because they put out things like this that are complete nonsense. And don't take Europeans seriously either. Because they also put out complete nonsense most of the time.
This is nonsense. This is nonsense. And it goes into just fueling the climate change hysteria that we've been experiencing for decades and decades. Not fueling it. Sorry. Stripping the fuel away from it.
Yeah, exactly. This is a wild thing because if people only did a modicum of research to know what's actually going on, they would realize how dumb this is and how alternatives are readily available for things that can replace coal power plants and things like that, or coal mines and all of the like. Nuclear energy, okay?
Yep.
You can replace all this
I'm
with
so
nuclear energy.
pro-nuclear. I just rewatched our 5-minute video on nuclear by Michael Schellenberger.
Go check it out, guys.
The arguments against nuclear are disasters, and he debunks each one of those, the 3 Mile Island, the Chernobyl, the one in Japan, and then it's the waste, and he debunks that too. And so if you take away all the hysteria around nuclear, you have the cleanest, most efficient energy source the world has ever known, and it's so abundant. And look at France, they're powering their whole system just with nuclear. And it's like I do not understand why we just look past the solution that's right in front of our face and everyone's so terrified of it. And then, we haven't gone there yet, but we have another article coming up about California again this summer. We did it last year, but we're doing it again. We're preparing for rolling blackouts to happen because they're going to shut the power down because they're weaning the state off of fossil fuels and making us more dependent on solar and wind energy. But guess what? They're not dependable. And if the weather's not right and the conditions aren't right, we have deficits, and then we have to import power from other states, and then there's not enough, and we have to shut down power for people, and then they ask us to turn down our air conditioner in the summer. And I'm like, This is 2021, and in the most wealthiest, most prosperous state and city in the entire country, and you're asking me to turn off my AC in the middle of the hot summer.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm going to turn it on even harder.
Yeah, I'm going to go even colder. It's 536 times a larger area of land needed to have wind and solar than it is to have nuclear energy. 536 times. It would cost 3 billion solar panels across the United States to power the entire United States. 3 billion.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane to me. How many? It's 3 billion.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I mean, and the way that we've always made it by as human beings is through adaptation. So the answer to this, even if the climate change hysteria of what they were pushing was actually real, which we know that it's not, but if it was, the answer would not be to strip us of the facilities of which we could adapt to our ever-changing climate. The answer would be to allow us to adapt and allow us to do things that would help. And that's not what the left wants to do at all.
They think that humans are so dumb. They think that rising sea levels, you're going to have homeless people on the beach and the waves are going to start to come and the homeless people just can't move.
We just start floating away.
Exactly. Like the whole world just boils up and it's like Waterworld, the movie.
Like,
Do you not understand that this takes a long time to happen, the sea levels rising?
And don't even get us started on Bill Gates buying a multi-million-dollar mansion that's like on the beach in California or wherever it is.
Right.
And all these, rich people who virtue signal about the climate change and rising sea levels, and then buy houses and fly around the world gallivanting to climate change seminars. It's just, it's all a veneer and a facade to make them feel important and make them, like you were saying before, Will, like have meaning in their lives, because they don't have God, they don't have good values, and so that all they have is their activism, and then they find these causes, but they're somehow their own logical brain gets checked at the door, and instead of actually advocating for solutions that solve real problems, they blow up fake problems and be activists about them. And it's like the same thing with race stuff, and it's just we're seeing the common thread on people who think like this, and it's like, wake up.
Also, it's super dumb when people talk about the solar panels and everything, and they talk about the waste from nuclear energy. Like, there are ways that we are figuring out that you might be able to reuse nuclear waste in a way that could be conducive to creating more energy or whatever it might be. They're figuring things out, right? Good. But with wind and solar energy, especially wind energy, you have these huge turbines that cost thousands of dollars to move. They're super
slaying
heavy.
Birds left and right.
Slaying birds. They just lay around when they're done. And then solar panels, it costs more money to recycle the solar panels than it actually does to just create new materials. So recycling it, what business is actually going to go out of their way to recycle the solar panels? It makes no sense financially. So all of these things are just it's a shame.
There's so many plot holes, guys. They have so many plot holes. I've got to get through a couple of super chats that we've gotten here. Quite a few, actually. El Chingon gave us $20, said, Amala, you're a very beautiful woman. Thank you. And great job with the channel. Keep up the great work, guys. Let's see. Samuel Hines says, hey, I'm a white male who is unprivileged enough to sunburn at the drop of a hat. As is Will and Taylor.
No, I don't sunburn.
Oh, you don't sunburn?
Just kidding.
That's definitely not true.
I just sunburned this last weekend, but I don't wear sunscreen.
I was a lobster this Monday after the weekend.
Yeah, I know. I don't wear sunscreen. I think sunscreen gives you cancer. Another hot take.
Will has so many hot takes. We should just do a full episode of just Will's hot takes.
The sun doesn't give you cancer, but sunscreen will.
It does.
According to Will.
You're putting all these chemicals onto your body that are bad.
Let's not go down another road.
Samuel says, can you produce the tees in long sleeves? I'm claiming an entitlement. Ha ha ha. Let's see. Carol Nakas gave us $5. No message, just gave us $5.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. And same with Elizabeth Ramsey. $10 donation. Thank you guys for your super chats. We really appreciate it, and you are keeping this stream going. So.
Yeah. Without your super chats,
we don't know what
we'd be the solar energy of podcasts. But now we are going nuclear. Thank you, guys.
Now we have one more thing to show you guys, and it's two different appearances that Will and I had, both related to the Daily Wire. So if you guys did not get the chance to see Will's episode premiere on Candace yesterday, he was on the panel to talk with her, very much like we talk on this podcast about the different issues of the week. So I'm going to pull that up and show you guys a little clip so we can cheer Will on.
Hype me up, gas me up.
Gas. Here we go.
What's actually happening is a film like this is actually harassing white people, right? So this is a blatantly racist film, right? Mm-hmm. This would be akin to white people making a film called Shanika and letting it define every stereotype of what it means to be a black person, right? Like, bumping music loud, going down the street. I mean, this is painfully racist. And not even that, but they're incorporating this idea that being white is violence, right? That like being white is a form of violence, and they're taking it to that next step, despite all evidence to the contrary. Like if you really wanted to look at shootings, the racial disparity in terms of shootings, if you wanted to, like say, I'm looking at these statistics and I want to draw some conclusions, those conclusions wouldn't be right, but the conclusion would be from actual statistics that black people are more violent towards white people, but they ignore all of that because what's culturally relevant right now is pretending it's the other way around.
Excuse me, police, black people just moved into my neighborhood. What am I supposed to do?
You've never done that?
I mean, that's all white people do, right? You know,
oh my God!
Right?
Yeah.
I had to call the police before I came on the show to call it on you.
Coat, yeah.
You know? Yeah. I have my Confederate lotion dispenser that's over here too. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. When the left can't find real racism, they create racism out of nothing.
Exactly.
If they had real stories to tell, if they had real things to talk about, they wouldn't have to create this stupid movie with Hollywood actresses. They could actually say something that is culturally relevant and going on. But no, they have to create lies to push their narrative.
Well, this seems to me to date.
Look at that guy's hair.
Good job, Will.
Sick. That guy looked good. I wish they would have brought up if public schools should be abolished.
Oh my gosh. So you can put your hot take on Candace.
Yeah, exactly. It was a good episode. If you guys haven't seen it, go to Daily Wire, get a membership, go watch the whole thing.
Okay, and one more thing here. I got to be in a little segment with my favorite political commentator so far, Michael Knowles, with the Daily Wire, and we did a little Would You Rather. So I'm going to show you a clip of that. You guys can check that out at the Michael Knowles show on YouTube.
A lot of old friends on the show. We have them over, we play games, we smoke cigars, we drink and smoke cigars while we play games. But sometimes we get the distinct privilege of meeting somebody new. And there is a new voice out there. She is taking PragerU by storm. That would be Amala Epinobi.
By storm.
Amala is I've only just met Amala right now. I don't know anything really about her other than what I've seen online. So I'm going to grill her and figure out who really is Amala Epinobi. Amala, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Michael. I'm ready to get grilled.
Are you ready? Get ready for the hot seat, okay? The producers have put together a list of questions that are supposed to tell us everything that we need to know about you.
Okay, I'm ready.
First question. Would you rather smoke a cigar with Dennis Prager or drink a beer with Will Witt?
Oh, you're starting right out the gate with very, very easy questions here, Michael.
That's easy.
Yes,
How's that easy?
Because I love Dennis more than anything. So I'm going to go smoking the cigar with Dennis Prager.
You know the other?
Simp alert. Brown nose alert. Oh, no. I really hope Dennis sees that.
I really hope Dennis does. Maybe I'll send it to Dennis. I got his number. I can text it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
That's what a simp would do.
How do you feel about that answer, Will?
No, it's a good answer. I would rather smoke a cigar with Dennis than get a beer with you, too. So it makes
also,
sense.
you guys do this podcast together every day and work together. So, I mean, Dennis, we don't see him as much.
Right. It's a rarity for me to ever smoke a cigar with Dennis. It's not a rarity.
Have you smoked a cigar, Amala?
No, and I don't feel like I would like it at all.
Don't recommend
Then why
it.
would you answer the question that way? If you just said you wouldn't like it at all.
It's an experience. I've never done it. I'm thinking maybe I wouldn't like it.
If she's doing it with Dennis Prager.
No. But listen, the logic of that is so backwards. You said you wouldn't like it at all. But you would still go and do it, and you're saying
he just is like looking for fights to pick.
No, this makes no sense. If you're saying that you wouldn't like it at all, you would still rather do that than get a beer with me, which means that you would really not like to get a beer with me at all.
No, that's not what that means at all.
That's what your logic portrays.
Now, Amala, you do like beer, so
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Hypothetically, if you were to get a beer with me, it would be better than a cigar.
So your disdain for Will outweighs your disdain for cigars. And
that's what I'm saying.
Everybody knows I love you guys. You guys don't have to worry about it.
Your logic fell apart. This is leftist logic at its
I feel kind of hurt, and I wasn't even involved in this thing, so I don't know.
No, it's so funny. I was telling Will earlier, we filmed like a mini sort of stories of us with Daily Wire, where they went over my story, and they asked me how I got to be at PragerU, and I told them the story of Sabrina finding me on Instagram and DMing me, and we got on a call together, and she goes, you know what? After hearing your story, I wanted to let you know we're doing a casting call for Will Witt to find the next Will Witt, and of course I knew who Will was at the time, but on the Daily Wire interview, I went over the story and I said, she told me they were doing a casting call for the next Will Witt. And then I looked at the camera and I said, and my first question was, who's Will Witt?
That was so good.
And I was hoping that they would edit that into the video just so I could show it on our program and show Will, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, what the heck? That was
Missed
such a good joke. I was there. I saw it. It was good. No, one thing I will say is watching Michael Knowles do his thing. He is like a polished professional.
He really is.
Like hosting and doing what he does. It's like we're pretty scrappy and raw. I mean, you guys are genuinely talented presenters and everything, but like
He's
Michael
just
is
next
like
level.
Yeah, on another level. It's
He
crazy.
really is. No slip ups, no fumbles.
He's very good.
We have a few more
that was
super
hard for Will
chats.
to compliment someone.
No, it was not. He's very good. I told him this when I was on his show last week, too. It was very good.
Oh, yes. You did a drinking game with Michael, didn't you?
Yes.
So we're going to have to show that.
Yesterday.
We're going to have to show that.
We will show it.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about that yesterday. Sorry, guys. You know, the memory slips.
Since we know all of you watch every single day to the very end. Yeah. Sorry for repeating ourselves.
A few super chats to close out the show. Freddie says, when are you all going to be A, moving out of California, or B, having guests on the podcast?
Those are
never
very good questions.
And never.
Never and never.
Soon and soon.
Next question.
Soon and soon, hopefully, are the answer to both of those questions.
No, we got some really exciting changes coming up for the podcast. We're going to do kind of like a mini relaunch in the next month or so. And part of that, we do want to have like an official guest space where we'll be having different personalities from PragerU, from visitors that are coming in to do present 5-minute videos, and Prager Force influencers, other people like that. So stay tuned.
Also, just interesting guests, just people who we want to have to come on and talk.
Right.
Exactly.
So they don't have to be doing something with PragerU, just people who we think you guys will enjoy.
Exactly.
So
one more, Penny McCormick gave us a super chat, and one more after that. Tracy Fink gave us a super chat and said, Hyundai has a fuel cell car, Nexo. That is the way of the future. The exhaust is water, H2O instead of CO2.
Right.
Interesting, Tracy.
But is it powered by nuclear?
That's very interesting. I've heard of those cars like that. I don't know. These cars and things are very expensive now, but in the future, in 10 years, these like a Tesla is going to be wildly cheaper. Everything's going to get cheaper as the processes to do these things gets much more abundant.
Not if we keep blowing out our currency, but that's another story.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Talking about, that was funny because when we were talking about ancient Rome yesterday and ancient Rome's collapse, it was caused by the mass immigration, which I was talking about, but also by inflation.
Yep.
Inflation of their coins, because the silver in their coins was deteriorating after years and years, so they had massive inflation. And what is happening in America?
Right.
Inflation, mass immigration.
We have plenty to watch out for, guys, and that is our job here on this podcast, to keep you guys aware of the things we should be watching out for and hopefully give you some hopeful stories every now and then and some fun content. So if you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell so that you get notified when we go live. If you would like to be personally notified when we go live, text live to 41776 and you will get a notification sent to your phone every time that our beautiful faces are on YouTube and Facebook.
And if you'd like to be personally notified, follow Taylor on Instagram. Message him and ask him.
Oh, no.
And he will personally
I DM
respond.
so many people. The list is growing.
Yes.
It's at like 12 now. So, yeah.
Let's get him to 99 plus, ladies and gentlemen, if we do nothing else.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.